Today is Wednesday, February 16th, 2002. It is now 6 p.m. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Madera City Council. The council chambers will be open to the public. This meeting will also be available for public viewing and participation through Zoom. Members of the public may also observe the live stream meeting on the city's website at www.madera.gov/live. Members of the public may comment on agenda items at the meeting or remotely through an electronic meeting via phone by dialing 669-900-6833. Enter ID 890-5245-9216 hashtag. Comments will also be accepted via email at citycouncilpubliccomment@madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. The city will observe the Madera County Public Health Department recommendations. This may limit seating in the council chamber. However, the city will have seating available in the foyer. All persons visiting city facilities shall observe health and safety protocols. Alicia, would you call roll, please?
Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Gallegos,
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Here.
Councilmember Montes,
Here.
Councilmember Mejia,
Here.
and Councilmember Villegas.
I'm here.
Thank you very much. Would you all please rise for the invocation led tonight by Pastor John Purcell of the Believers Church.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's all pray together. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, thanking you for another beautiful day here in California and Madeira. And we ask you, Lord, to control that which we can't control. We ask you to give us your wisdom, your help, your understanding. We ask you to plant your thoughts in our minds that we might serve the people of this community and be a blessing to them and honor you in all that we do. We thank you for that. We thank you for every member of the council tonight. And we thank you, Father, that as they do that which you have placed them in honor and power to do, that it's done, Father, in glory and grace and a blessing to everyone in the room tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Montes, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Oh, thank you. We will now move on to the approval of the agenda. I will ask my colleagues if there are any changes or additions to the agenda.
So moved to approve as presented. I second it.
Motion to approve the agenda by Councilwoman Gallegos. And was that you, Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Evans?
Yes.
On the second?
Yes.
Yeah. Motion to approve the agenda by Councilwoman Gallegos and Mayor Pro Tem Evans. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia?
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to public comment. The first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked but are not required to identify themselves and state the subject of their comments. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold a comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Alicia, do we have any public comment?
I do have one written public comment, Mayor. It's from Kirk Atamian. When will the city of Madeira release the applications for cannabis dispensary? Some type of time frame of when things are going to happen. Do we have anyone in the council chambers wishing to make public comment? None at this time, Mayor. Mark, do we have anyone on Zoom?
We have no one on Zoom wishing to speak.
Thank you very much. There are no written communications. We will now go on to our presentation from the Department of Health on COVID-19. Sarah, are you here tonight?
Hello, good evening.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you. Our case rate is now at 63.2 per 100,000. That is coming down significantly, but relatively high. So we went so high that 63 sounds great, but 63 is still pretty high. Our positivity rate is at 23.9%, still high, but significantly down. We're still seeing a lot of people testing, 734 tests per day. We are looking at reducing the capacity of our testing sites back to the capacity they had before, because we're about at the place that our previous levels can handle the current current demand of what's out there. Hospitalizations are starting to come down, but slower than you would see cases coming down. 3-day average is still at 18.7. What's really significant, though, is the ICU increased. So what we're seeing is that delay of cases, that it's always a 2-week delay. We're seeing it in our hospitalizations, and we're also seeing an increase in those patients with severe illness. A change as of today is that the masking requirement for indoors is going back to what we had in December. So those who are vaccinated do not have to mask indoors. Vaccinated is still the same definition. It's 2 doses of either Pfizer or Moderna, or 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson. And so if individuals have gotten those 2 doses or 1 dose, depending on the type, then they are able to unmask indoors. Those who have not been vaccinated are still under the order to mask indoors. For schools, there's an exception. Like our healthcare settings and other high-risk settings, masks are required, like hospitals, healthcare. Those places are still required that everyone mask regardless of vaccination status. And that's true of schools as well, at least through February 28th. That was an announcement that was made by the state yesterday. They're looking closely at masks in schools, and will provide an update on February 28th with regards to ongoing masking for K-12 students. In terms of vaccination, fully vaccinated is at 55.2%, and this is eligible population. Partially vaccinated, so they've gotten 1 of 2 doses, 7%. So our total is at 62. City of Madeira, the area A is right about at the average for the county. Area C is higher at close to 70%. We are providing an incentive for people's first dose of their vaccination. It's a $75 incentive that's through the month of February. We're really wanting to encourage people to get vaccinated who need that immunity. And there was conversation or announcements that vaccination for young children age 6 months to age 4 was going to be approved through emergency use authorization by the CDC, but that was delayed. They didn't give a time frame for how long that delay would be, so we're still waiting on that population to become eligible. So final reminders, masks are still very effective. Of course, a mask on me, a cloth mask, or a regular surgical mask will protect other people. Still really recommend individuals mask in big groups and crowded areas to protect one another. If you want protection for yourself, then you're looking at like an N95 mask instead. And the best protection for all of us is for people to gain immunity through the vaccine, especially if people have not had COVID in the past, or if they had COVID more than 6 months ago, then it's really important for people to get vaccinated. So I know many in our community are really depending on the immunity that they received from having had infection, and that is effective, but at 6 months, it starts to wane. And so it's important for people then to really look at vaccination as their next step to continue having immunity against COVID. People can find vaccination clinics through My Turn or call 311 and someone can help them schedule an appointment.
Thank you, Sarah. I only have one question tonight. You mentioned ICU. Were you referring to hospital beds, the capacity of our hospitals, our local hospitals to house patients?
That's correct. It's up by 30, our number of patients in our ICU is up by 36%. And so we do have fewer ICU beds than we did last week.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? Well, thank you very much for giving us an update. We hope to see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Thank you for that. We will now move on to introductions. I believe, Mr. Foss, that you have an introduction for our city.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. So tonight I'd like to introduce Gabriel Baston. He is waving on your screen there. He's somewhere on your screen, one of the bodies. But he is the newest member of our management team to a very important position. He's the manager of the wastewater treatment plant. Most of you have done a tour, most if not all of you have done a tour of the plant, and they do know that it is kind of one of our silent heroes here at the city. It's probably our biggest operation. It's very vital to the city and the community that we have this running and running appropriately and properly. And I think Mr. Baston is going to be a great fit for it. I'll give you a little bit of his background. He has a very interesting background, actually. He has a Master of Science from Petroleum Engineering from the University of Oil and Gas in Romania. And then at one point in time, he did a transition here to the States. I think it was in '86, came here to the US. And he got into wastewater treatment plant in 1993. In 1994, he was an OIT, which is an operator in training. And by the year of 2000, he was a grade 5 licensed operator. Now, I say that with some emphasis because that is about the fastest I have ever heard somebody progressing through wastewater treatment plant. It is rather difficult to get those licenses. It takes a lot of study, a lot of intelligence, a lot of dedication. And on top of that, he was new to this country. I think that just shows a lot of his character, the fact that he was able to make that so fast in 6 years, go from a operator in training to a grade 5 licensed operator. Our plant requires a grade 4 to be the manager, and he is a grade 5. So we have one step up on that. During his career, he's operated everything from a plant or supervised everything from a plant that does 8 million gallons per day to 30 million gallons per day. Our plant currently is processing about 5.5 million gallons per day. We're licensed up to 7, and we're hoping to get licensed up to 10 million gallons per day shortly. His goal is to get into recirculating the water. So water that he would be able to explain this better than me at any other time. If you guys want to do a tour and speak with him, we could, but water is vital to this valley. Right now, the way we process water is through ponds, which is not necessarily the most efficient. Some communities are transitioning to the water can be used back into the community for different purposes. We're a long way from that, but that's something that we can look at a goal of achieving later on. And Mr. Baston has some experience with that. On top of all those certificates, he has some certificates also in water treatment. So he has his grade 2 in water treatment, his D2 in water distribution, and his grade 1 in water quality. What does all those certificate means? If you ask him something and he tells you, then he probably knows what he's talking about. That's what I take it as it means, because it's just a lot of certificates, more than most of our managers here. So with that, Gabriel, take over the mic. If you'd like to introduce yourself, we're happy to have him, and you want to say a couple words.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Gabriel Boston, and I'm very pleased that I was hired for City of Madeira wastewater treatment plant, and I will offer to whoever is interested, mainly to operators, my experience, my understanding of a wastewater treatment and how we can achieve the highest level of treatment, which Mr. Daniel mentioned as a reclaimed water, which could be reused in agriculture with all these trees and vineyards and everything around, instead of putting back in the ground and let the lucky people who have wells around the plant to be provided with water, unlimited amount of water. So we can use that and it could become another revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and welcome aboard. We're glad to
Thank
have
you.
you, especially with all those certificates and education you have. It's a testament to your character. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And
Thank you. Thank
good
you.
luck.
Thank you, Mayor.
We will move on to, there are no workshops. We will not move on to item B, consent calendar. Matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, a member of the public or a member of the council may request an item be removed from the consent calendar and they will be considered separately. Alicia, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no one at the podium and I have not received any written public comment.
And no one from Zoom.
Thank you very much. I will now close public comment. I will now ask for discussion or a motion from my colleagues.
I move to approve the.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the consent calendar by Mayor Pro Tem Evans, second by Councilmember Villegas. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia,
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
We will now move on to item C, public hearings. Item C1 is a public hearing relating to annexation of certain properties into zone of benefit 40 and zone of benefit 51 to the citywide landscape and lighting assessment districts, LMD, zone for fiscal year 2022-2023. This item will be continued at our next meeting, which is March the 2nd. So there will be no report and no action. We will now move on to.
Excuse me, Mayor. Would you please make a motion and second and adopt it to continue the meeting to the next time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can I hear a motion from my colleagues?
Mayor, move that we continue item C1 to the next council meeting. Is that what you said?
Correct.
March 2nd.
March 2nd.
Second.
Motion to move item C1 to our meeting on March 2nd by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilmember Gallegos. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia,
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
We will now move on to item C2, general plan amendment and related rezoning of property for the development of the Sunset Apartment project. I believe, Ms. Alinder, you have this one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. My name is Sarah Allender. I'm one of the contract planners working with your planning department processing applications. So I'm pleased to be with you this evening. Let me go ahead and get the presentation running. I'm assuming you saw a blank screen on that one.
We did see an item on there, but I believe it was the last slide.
Oh, okay.
Is alternative your first slide?
There we go.
Okay, here we go.
We got the title slide. I usually have one screen. I have three right now. So Thank you for your patience. I'm pleased to be with you this evening. I will be presenting a general plan amendment and rezone for your consideration tonight in support of the Sunset Apartments project. The project site is located at the northeast corner of Orchard and Sunset Avenues. The site itself is just under an acre in size. This is the site where the old Madeira Athletic Club was located, most recently Thrive Fitness, most recently mostly vacant due to a fire that burned down a majority of the gym. So there are surrounding existing uses, primarily single-family residential located to the north, east, to the south across Sunset Avenue, and then there's an existing church located across Orchard Avenue to the west. There is some history on this site. I mentioned that it was the old Madeira Athletic Club. It has served in that capacity since the mid-1950s, and it was operating under a conditional use that was issued by the city. The Planning Commission did revoke that conditional use permit back in 2016, and the current property owners purchased the site after 2016 and intended to develop the site with apartments. So they filed all of the required entitlements originally in 2020. The Planning Commission did review the general plan amendment, rezone, and site plan review, and they took action to approve the site plan back in November of 2021. And that site plan authorizes construction of a 15-unit apartment project. The site plan was approved. However, it was approved subject to the City Council approving both the general plan amendment and rezone, which is before you for consideration this evening. So again, the items that you are considering include a general plan amendment, a rezone, as well as an initial study and negative declaration, and I will go through each of those actions individually. The general plan amendment is 2020-01. This is a proposal to amend the land use map that was adopted as part of your general plan, and it is proposing a change in the land use designation from what is currently a commercial land use designation for the project site, and it is proposing to change that to a high density residential land use designation for the project site. The high density residential designation does allow for a range of density on that site, anything from just over 15 dwelling units per acre up to 50 dwelling units per acre. Just for reference, the site plan that was approved by Planning Commission, which authorized 15 units on that site, falls just over 17 dwelling units to the acre. So it is within that proposed density range for high density residential. The rezone request really only applies to the northern quarter of the project site. The map on the left is the existing zoning map, and you can see only that northern quarter is currently zoned R1, which is a single family residential district. That's the light yellow color. The remainder of the site is already zoned R3, which is high density. The rezone would essentially create the whole site to be R3, and that R3 zone district is consistent with the proposed high density residential land use designation, which is what you want. You want consistency between your designation and your zone district. The R3 zone district would allow for a maximum of 21 units to be constructed on that project site. Again, the site plan for reference is authorizing 15 units. So again, it's within the parameters of the R3 zone district. There was also an initial study prepared for the project, which resulted in a negative declaration that was routed out for public review and comment. It was routed out for 21 days, starting at the end of September of 21 and ending in mid-October of 2021. We did receive one comment letter during that public review and comment period that cited compatibility concerns with the existing neighborhood. That comment letter was presented as part of the Planning Commission presentation and was considered by Planning Commission during their action. And even though Council is not taking action on the site plan review, I did want to share what that site plan review is approving because the general plan and rezone would facilitate construction of this project. As I mentioned, it's a 15-unit apartment project. There would be 2 buildings located on site. The northern building would actually be rehabilitating what is remaining of the gym into a 4-unit building, and then the 11-unit building would be on the southern end of the project site, and that would be new construction. Again, this was approved by Planning Commission back in November of 2021. The applicant has submitted fees to cover the cost of processing the application in accordance with your fee schedule. They will also be paying additional fees during processing of the building and improvement plans, as well as additional permit fees as part of those processes. The property owner will also be responsible for paying development impact fees when the development moves forward. So staff is recommending for council to approve both the general plan as well as the rezone and adopt the initial study and negative declaration. And that would involve adopting the resolution before you, adopting general plan 2020-01 that is included as attachment 6 in your packet. We do have some additional language to add to that resolution, and that would be added at the end of section 4 of the resolution. That new language would read, and hereby incorporates by reference the findings as set forth in Planning Commission Resolution 1898, Section 5. We're also recommending adoption of the ordinance approving rezone 2021-01. That's included as attachment 8 in your packet. And finally, we are recommending adoption of the initial study negative declaration that was prepared associated with the project request. That concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. Elisa, you mentioned like we have public comment on this item.
I have one written public comment, Mayor, if I may.
Mayor, can you formally open the public hearing?
We will now open the public hearing and allow members of the public to comment on this item.
I have one written public comment, Mayor, and this is from Christine Hayes. I strongly object to having apartments built near my property located at 605 El Rancho Drive. This area is for single-family residents. There are no apartments located in this area. When the Madeira Athletic Club was open for business under several different names, we had things taken from our yard, gas taken out of our cars and trucks after having our gas caps broken off and drag racing around our block. The home I own was broken into one time before I put in an alarm. I had sensor lights put in the backyard, which did not deter those who wanted to jump my fence to get into my backyard. Crime has gone down in our neighborhood since the athletic club has closed. Now you are thinking about putting apartments in, which will attract more crime in our neighborhood. I'm certain that you, as our city council, can find a more suitable location for apartments instead of in the middle of our neighborhood of single-family residents. As a tax-paying voting citizen who was born and raised in Madeira, I ask that you vote no on the apartment on Sunset. Respectfully, Mrs. Leslie Harold Hayes.
Is that it for public comment?
We have one more.
Okay,
He's approaching the podium.
thank you.
I'm Roger Evans. I've lived at 1817 Venturi for 25 years. Before that, I was raised on Jennings Street. Went to the athletic club that was there. There before, there was cotton fields all around the old athletic club, before Acanero was the thing, and all those streets that were decided upon by people smarter than me, right? You're wanting to build this apartment complex in an area that is all single family dwellings. You got Adams Elementary School right close, and you've got TJ. You're going to put 15 apartments there with at least 2 cars per apartment. And that adds up to 30 cars. And then you've got all the people that are going to be living there. It's still a single family area. I don't know what you guys are thinking about, but there's got to be a better choice for that than this. We in the area thought about senior citizen housing, which would bring fewer cars, fewer people. We all kind of agreed to that. Doctor's offices might be a good choice. I don't know, but there's got to be a better way than this. This is just like backwards. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much. Do we have any further public comment?
We have no one else in the council chambers, Mayor.
And no one raising their hand on Zoom.
Thank you very much. I will now close public comment and turn it over to my colleagues. Does any of my colleagues want to speak on this item? Councilwoman Gallegos?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. I thank Mr. Evans and his wife for coming in today and the comments of the letters. I do teach at John Adams. I live in the area. That's where I reside. But I have to tell you that I hear from a lot of residents throughout our city is that we need housing in Madeira. Good housing for our community. And I hear from a lot of the community that apartments don't go there, that they shouldn't be on this side of town because it's a single family home. But is it fair to put these apartments on just one side of town? I represent the whole city of Madeira, and we don't have very many apartments on our side of town. And sure, it's a single family home environment, but those apartments are still going to be kids that come to John Adams that I teach. Those are still going to be kids that are going to be running in the area that I live. And for Mrs. Hayes's comments about the athletic club who brought crime, well, those are not homeowners. Those are not renters who are paying to live there that have pride of where they're at. So for me, it's a concern that us as a community feel that I'm in a single family home. If there was apartments that were coming near me, I don't think I would be as hesitant because that would be my daughter renting that apartment because she can't afford a home right now. And to say that she shouldn't have that opportunity to live near me and have her kids go to the school where I teach is concerning. I know there's other developers that have looked in the area at some open land about putting apartments in this area, but they hear from a lot of residents that I've born and raised on Howard and Granada that apartments don't belong over here. They do. They belong everywhere so that our kids that can't afford homes right now can live near us and have their kids go to the schools that they went to. So I'm in favor of this project. I feel that it's not my land. I don't get to say what's built there. I do get to say what I feel is important for this community, and especially the area where the athletic club was mine, and all I got was 100 million phone calls about how this was horrible for this area. I sat in neighborhood watches for hours. I've sat in people's homes and heard how this was so horrible, and the filth and the break-ins and blocking my driveway and wouldn't move their cars. I've heard it for 6 years. And now that it's gone and we want to put something beautiful, Miss Allender put the project for us to see, which is amazing. I hadn't seen it. That was the first time I'd seen it. So thank you for that. And I think it's something that we need. And so I am in support of that. And I just wanted to let you know where I stand and why I stand for that. So thank you, Mayor Garcia.
Thank you. Councilmember Montes.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Gallegos summed it up pretty well. We do have an issue with housing. I work with homeless issues in the city of Fresno, and a big impediment that we have is we don't have housing. We don't have places to put people. And the comments that people are saying about crime and stuff, this is a different type of project. I get it with the commercial designation. You can put a different type of structure there. I think you're not going to have the same issues that you had in the past. And even though that wasn't it's not my district, I still got a lot of complaints in the past. And after the athletic club shuttered, I got more complaints then. What are we doing? What are we doing about this? And I think somebody kind of stepped up to the plate. They took the property. They have a project that is desperately needed in the city for housing. So I'm in favor of this project. Again, I think it's just something that we really need. And I don't want to stand in the way of making sure that we do have affordable, appropriate housing in the city of Madeira. So I'll be in favor of this project. Those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. Well, I just want to start by saying that an empty lot with land doesn't really generate as much property tax base. So I feel that this is a good opportunity for this housing to come along. I know that when the property was abandoned for some time, there was a lot of vandalism. I believe the rooftop, I'm not sure if there was some copper that people were going in and out. Obviously, it became an eyesore for a lot of folks around that area. It took vision, and it took this group of people to take on this project. Obviously, it costs money to buy land and have that development come through. I feel that this is going to put some housing, some much needed housing in the area. Obviously, give it a better look and bring something good to the community, also the tax base. So I feel that the project is much needed. Obviously, the area has changed in many ways, and I understand. I'm very. I feel your comments there. Certainly, obviously, you've had a lot of time and history in that area, but I feel that it's also time for the housing. There's a shortage in housing. Obviously, this is a good opportunity, and I believe the group that brought it before us is going to take on this responsibility of making sure that we keep it a safe place. We keep it next to schools. It's a good area, and I'm sure that the person that's bringing this before us, I'm sure they have other properties that have businesses and other commercial apartments. And I'm sure that if there's any issues that arise from that, we can certainly reach out and try to get those resolved. But I'm certainly in favor of this, and I'm willing to move this forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Evans.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Allender. I would like to piggyback with my colleagues, and I am total agreement. I used to attend the gym as well. And I do understand the parking and some of the things that were happening maybe there. But right now, Madeira needs to move forward. We need to be able to blossom. And right now, we're just kind of stagnated. There's a number of things that are just kind of holding us back. But the beautification of that complex that she was speaking of is something that will enhance our streets. And we do need more affordable housing. And I concur with Councilwoman Gallegos. It's nice when children are around, and she teaches at the school there. And it's all it's going to do is bring more families to our city, bring more revenue to our city, and just allow the children to be able to be taught by Ms. Councilwoman, Gallegos. So I am in total agreement with this project. So you have my vote.
I'll be short and sweet. I approve of this project based on the need of housing. We need more housing. I don't see any more hands raised. I will now close this and go on to my colleagues for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve item C2 with the corrections to the resolution mentioned by Sarah.
Second.
Motion to approve item C2 with the additions by Councilmember Montes, seconded by Councilmember Villegas. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia?
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to item D, petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. Item D1 is an agreement for Lions Town and Country Park renovation. I believe, Mr. Romero, you have this item?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Adam. I'm with the Parks and Recreation Department. I'll be presenting the Lions Town and Country Ball Field number 1 and 2 renovations. And I'll share my screen for the slide that I have. Okay. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's see. Sorry about this. This is my first time trying to do this.
It's all right. Take your time.
Let's see. Let's see here. Sorry about that. It's giving me, let's see. Share screen.
Voila.
Okay, now?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So here's a little slideshow we went with, and it kind of goes over the summary of everything we got going on. So the city was approached by a donor, or two donors, Mr. Ron and Terry Piss, in renovating and improving fields number 1 and 2 at Lionstown and Country Park. We had an invitation for bid that went out, with being consistent with long-term goals of improving our parks here in Madeira. Bald field number 1 would have a lot of different things going on as far as the renovations. Here's a list of kind of what they're looking to do. It'll be new grading points for proper drainage, new infield mix with Bermuda hybrid overseed, new sod for the infield, and repositioning of the existing base pegs. This is kind of this is exactly what it looks like right now. Field number 1 at Lionstown and Country Park. This is the area that will be improved. They'll also be doing the same thing to field number 2. Very similar renovations. The only difference would be the square footage. The square footage of the previous field is 7,000 square feet. The field number 2 is 8,300 square feet. But all the same renovations, grading, sod, it'll all be the same work done to both fields. And here's field number 2 at Lionstown and Country Park that will be redone. We had 2 bidders that came in. One is Nishco Inc. They came in with a bid of $65,216. The next was Clean Cut Landscape Inc. They came in at $83,622, and those are only 2 bidders that came forward. Let's see here. So 2 bids were evaluated by the committee and staff of Parks and Public Works in accordance with the public contract code. The city is required to award the contract to the lowest bidder, which is Nishco at $65,216. Here's a kind of a rough edge of what they have done in the past and what we're looking to do with the infield on both fields. New dirt, new sod around the playing field, and repositioning of the pegs. Let's see, we have allocated 50 grand in the fiscal year of 2021 and 2022, excuse me, for capital improvements at Lionstown and Country Park previous to the donations. With the donor committing to $30,000, the city will cover the remaining estimate amount, which will cost the city $35,216. Any alternatives today would be having to go out for another invitation for bids to different donors, or award the agreement to the next bidder, which has an $83,000 bidder. And that's all we had for the.
Adam, could I ask you for a favor? Could you put back that last slide of the field?
Yeah.
That showed the real clean.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Let's see. This one here?
Yeah, that is actually very beautiful. That is amazing what they can do.
Yeah,
looks like Dodger Stadium.
Right. So that's what they've done in the past. And this is what the work that they plan on doing to both of the fields at Lionstown Country Park, field number 1 and 2.
Thank you very much, Adam.
You're welcome.
Alicia, do we have any comments from the public?
Mayor, I have not received any written public comment, and I don't believe we have anyone in the audience wishing to speak.
And no one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom. Thank you. I will now close public comment and open it up for my colleagues. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. First, I'd like to say, Adam, great job on your first PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Did it out of the park.
Thank you.
Ooh.
I would like to thank especially Ron and Terry Piss for their donation. My son has been on this field 15 years ago and it needed it then. It was dangerous for the kids that are out there. It's a blessing that they're donating for not just the National, but American League also, their field, in the honor of her brother, Kenny Taylor, who has done a lot, not only for Little League, but for the Babe Ruth and the residents in the city of Madeira. Some of my colleagues might not know, but a National and American League covers the entire city. So it's benefiting every child that wants to go out for baseball, which will filter into the junior highs, and Babe Ruth, which will filter into Madeira High, Madeira South, and Matilda Torres. So with that, this is a long time coming. I thank the presidents from both leagues who are green lighting it and are excited. I can't wait till we host those national tournaments. And because in the past, I've always had to travel out of Madeira because we didn't have a field that would accommodate those kind of tournaments. So with that, it'll be revenue for the city, for the food, for the lodging. So in the long run, all that's going to come back around to us in another way. And our kids' face being on that field will be priceless. So thank you, Piss family, for that generous donation, and for the city and everyone who worked on this project. Joseph, Adam, Arnaldo, my colleagues have also worked with the Piss on this. And I'm hoping this is approved because this will be a great win for the city of Madeira. Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. I too want to chime in and thank the Piss family for donating that amount. I also wanted to thank Councilwoman Mejia alongside Councilwoman Gallegos, city staff, and members of the National Little League that met with us out in the field to be able to give us somewhat of a historical background of what's taken place here. I'm sure our city manager can say a bit about that because he's part of Madeira, has been part of Madeira for some time. He understands how National League and the American League work. But we stand in a city that has these two fields that have become highlighted in many different areas. And that was certainly brought up by the representatives there representing National Little League, that Madeira does have a potential to bring in a lot more folks, especially when they have these tournaments that come to our city. And also with that comes a lot more tax dollars. So I believe that this enhancement is going to not only help our community, help our youth, help our both the National and American League. And at the same time, it just gives us a very optimistic future for our youth baseball. So I want to say thank you to staff and thank you to all those, Joseph, and your staff out to Park that's done a great job out there as well. So thank you.
I don't see any more hands raised. I think we can close this part and we could go on to my colleagues for a motion.
I so move to approve D1 as presented.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Motion to approve item D1 by Councilmember Gallegos, second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia?
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Play ball. Thank you, Mr. Romero.
Thank you all. Thank you.
We will now move on to item D2, Planned Caltrans project on State Route 145, SR 145. I believe, Mr. Helmuth, you have this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll just do a quick little introduction. This is actually from the last meeting. And it is in fact the third meeting wherein Caltrans has met with the city regarding a request of the city to consider a road diet on Yosemite Avenue. The previous meeting discussed the project and request of Caltrans in detail. And council did have a number of questions that were addressed by staff, by Caltrans staff. If there are additional questions that council may have or require any clarifications, I'm sure that Caltrans staff would be happy to address those as well tonight. Council did have a number of possible requests of Caltrans that could not necessarily be discussed in detail last week. That included roundabouts or medians and landscaping. That can be addressed at this meeting as well. This will allow them to go ahead and get into those questions in detail. It will also allow council to consider resolution that might approve of the road diet from the city of Madeira. Caltrans may also wish to discuss the public notice recently published. The publication was not mentioned during the last council meeting. Caltrans indicates it does not have any impact on anything that's previously discussed in the last meeting as well. Caltrans may also wish to discuss that public notice. The publication was not mentioned during the meeting. Caltrans indicated it does not have any impact on anything previously discussed. And it feels like I'm repeating myself, doesn't it? Anyway, and I'm also thinking that Caltrans will provide a recap of the project funding. I think there was a question or two with regard to that funding, and they can go ahead and revisit that. With that, John Liu, he presented last week. I understand he will be presenting again this week. What I'm going to go ahead and do is close down my presentation here, and then Caltrans can go ahead and share their presentation.
John, before you begin, do you have any other members of your team here tonight?
I'm here, Mike Day.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And I'm here, I'm Getachew Jete from Design and Caltrans also.
Welcome also.
Thank you.
I'm Eric Olson from District 6 Technical Planning.
Welcome.
For the record, Mayor, we have Ramon Lopez with Caltrans in our audience.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Alicia. Welcome, Ramon.
All right.
President of Madeira.
And good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us again. And I'll just give a real quick overview again of the project, just kind of a reminder of what's being proposed. Certainly open to answering any questions that you may have. So as I mentioned before, that this is an overlay project that is being proposed for State Route 145. So I'll cover the scope of the project, very briefly go over our complete streets policies, some of the prior concerns, go through some renderings, and then finally some of the layouts. And last time, as you recall, I showed an example from the Bird Rock neighborhood in San Diego. And again, the limits of this project is from Pecan all the way to the railroad, near where the future high-speed rail will be crossing. The scope of the project is to do a grind and overlay. We are going to be doing some complete streets enhancements, like closing some of the sidewalk gaps. But primarily it's to preserve the pavement that is currently out there. And so some of the other things we plan to add as part of the complete streets is bicycle lanes, bike parking, bulb outs to make pedestrian crossings a little bit easier in the downtown area, and doing some transit stops, and upgrading the older traffic signals. Construction cost is about 13.4 million. And we did get the extra $4 million from our headquarters specifically to address the complete streets elements in the downtown area. And we hope to begin construction in the fall of 2024. And Caltrans does have a complete streets policy that whenever we are doing major rehabilitation projects, we do want to accommodate those vulnerable users, particularly bicyclists and pedestrians. And we also have a safe system approach where we consider any type of fatality or serious injury just unacceptable. We want to make our highway system as forgiving as possible. We recognize that People are very vulnerable when they are struck by vehicles. So particularly where we have an environment where we have a lot of pedestrian activity, we want to try to slow down speeds. And there's been actually quite a bit of public interaction regarding the downtown area. The City Council did adopt the downtown Main Street project that talked about things such as enhancing pedestrian and bicyclist access. And I previously mentioned that in the first workshop, the City Council members did have some concerns about diversion of traffic. Where's the truck traffic going to go? State Route 145 will continue to remain a route that accommodates trucks. Relinquishment is currently not on the table, but it could be an option if the city is interested in the future. And we do understand that maintaining parking is very important for the downtown area. And at the last meeting, I did mention that if we do reduce State Route 145 through town, Yosemite Avenue, the primary diversion of traffic will occur on 4th Street as folks try to maybe find a faster route to get to the freeway. There will be a little bit of increase in traffic on 6th Street, but not a whole lot. And just a reminder, we understand that there is pedestrian and bicyclist activity in the downtown area, and that's part of the reason why we do want to make it safer. And this is an example at C Street. The idea with the road diet is we would be placing bulb outs or curb extensions to decrease the pedestrian crossing distances. The bulb outs would also be calming traffic by making it feel a little bit more constricted so that they're less apt to treat it like a speedway. And just a representative cross-section where we have the current 5-lane cross-section. And with the road diets or the lane reductions, the proposal is to remove the outside lanes. It would provide a bicycle facility. We would be maintaining the street parking. As I mentioned before, we do plan to add crosswalks. Some locations, it will be curb and gutter and sidewalk. Other areas, it'd be an AC path, particularly the southern area along Madeira Avenue. But our intention is we do want to provide a safe location for pedestrians to walk. And again, it's just some before and after renderings. Before South Madeira Avenue near Gateway, and after. And here's the before by Walnuts and after. And just to briefly review the potential road reduction on Yosemite Avenue, we do want to maintain all the lanes at the railroad crossing because we understand when the train crosses, people need to stop and stack up. But over at D Street would be where the lane reductions would start. We would have the bulb outs going to about A Street. And then towards Lake Street, where the character is a little bit different, we would no longer have the bulb outs. But we do want to provide a bicycle facility that would continue farther east. Last time I did mention that there is a potential roundabout option that is not currently part of the design. If the city is interested in this roundabout concept, it could be studied further during the design stage. There may be we may need to reopen the environmental process to do a revalidation just to make sure that the community supports the roundabout concept. But one thing I mentioned is with the roundabout concept, if this is something that the city does want to pursue further, we looked at a way that we can maintain the parking without losing any parking, and that's by introducing backup angle parking on one side of the highway. We could potentially fit a raised median. And the idea with the roundabouts also is we don't want to acquire additional right-of-way at the corners, so these would be very tight, compact urban roundabouts, but but the area around the roundabouts would provide public space where you could potentially have street furniture, tables and chairs, and things of that sort. Over at Lake Street, we don't necessarily have to do the road diet at this location. We could actually maintain the 5 lanes as well as bike lanes. And by having the roundabouts and keeping the lanes at Lake, that would maintain a higher level of capacity, so there would be less diversion to some of the parallel streets. And I also presented as kind of as a model the Birdwalk neighborhood in San Diego, a very, very similar facility. It used to be an old state highway with a 5-lane cross section. What the community did was they removed the traffic signals and they put these compact urban roundabouts that would potentially be almost the same dimension as what would be proposed on Yosemite Avenue. And it is a thriving retail and residential district. They have a raised median. We could potentially put a raised median on Yosemite Avenue as well. And I'll repeat a quote from the newspaper regarding Birdwalk. Vehicles drive much slower than before, but on average, they actually get through faster because they no longer have to stop at the signals. Roundabouts could push through much more traffic than a typical signal. And here's just another view of a cross section. If we don't do the road diet, the highway would remain essentially the same. We'd maintain the 5 lanes, parking, but there would be very few enhancements. We may still be able to do some of the bulb outs at the intersections. But as far as creating additional public space, doing more things to kind of reduce the speed, change the character of the entire district, it'd be much more limited in what we were able to do. This is with the lane reductions. If we're able to take out the outside lanes, we'd be able to put a very high quality bicycle lane. This would be a class 2 bike lane. There is enough room to put a raised median if there is interest in putting some greenery, some trees. One thing that we are very sensitive is the needs for the fire department. And with a raised median, you obviously don't have the access for emergency vehicles to drive on the opposite side of the road. So we would consult very closely with the fire department on any concerns that they may have. And we also did hear that the fire department did have some concerns about if we were going to do the roundabouts, if this was something that the city council was interested in, could fire trucks actually be accommodated? One comment I made at the last meeting is we weren't going to be designing these roundabouts for the largest trucks. And what I meant there was the large STAA interstate type of trucks. We would still be accommodating the roundabouts for your typical box trucks, your garbage trucks, your fire trucks. And we actually took a closer look at some actual truck turning templates of fire trucks. And the idea is we would accommodate whatever actual fire truck the city uses or potentially would use in the future. We want to make sure that it's accommodated just for public safety. But again, roundabouts would be something that could be considered during the design phase. So that's not something necessarily that we're wanting direction from the city at this time, but certainly it'd be nice to know if that's something that you want us to look at further. So that is the extent of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions or for anyone from the Caltrans team.
Alicia, do we have any public comment?
I do have written public comment, Mayor. And do we have anyone in the audience wishing to speak? We do have a member in the audience wishing to speak.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and City Manager. I'm here.
Could you please speak into the mic, please?
Thank you. I'm Mona Davey, and I'm here on behalf of the Madeira Downtown Association. And we are primarily a group that is in the area of the downtown area. I'm the bank manager of Union Bank, which this area is going to be affected where I am in that area, along with other business owners are on the board of Madeira Downtown Association that are also in that area. So I'm here to talk about the letter we recently sent to City Council. You guys should have that, and Caltrans. So in our letter, we explained the Madeira Downtown Association wants to be proactive in the future of the downtown area and the revitalization. For this reason, the Board of Directors voted to support the proposed plans for Yosemite Avenue by Caltrans and strongly recommend that the council do as well. It was noted too that in our meeting, we endorse both street diet concepts. It prefers a design with roundabouts. So we talked about the roundabouts and we really like that design. But honestly, we appreciate the consideration of even downtown being revitalized. Councilmember Evans, she mentioned to blossom. If you've lived in Madeira for your whole life, you're gonna know that downtown needs to be fixed. So it needs to blossom. And we also want it to be, it's a long time coming actually for downtown. So we do support Caltrans. We support and appreciate the consideration of all the concepts that were listed. So hopefully something can be done in that area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alicia?
Thank you, Mayor. We did receive a written public comment from the Madeira Downtown Association. As Ms. Davy mentioned, I'll go ahead and read the letter in its entirety. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council and City Manager, on February 9th, 2022, the Madeira Downtown Association Board of Directors reviewed and discussed the proposal from Caltrans regarding State Route 145 through the city. While improvements throughout the state route are in dire need of repair, this letter focuses on the downtown area. The MDA wants to be proactive in the future of the downtown area and its revitalization. For this reason, the Board of Directors voted to support the proposed plans for Yosemite Avenue by Caltrans and strongly recommend that the City Council do as well. We understand that Caltrans has offered 3 distinctive designs for Yosemite Avenue. The MDA is supportive of either option that results in one lane in either direction to enhance the pedestrian experience. It is noted that while the MDA endorses both street diet concepts, it prefers the design without roundabouts at the intersections, a street median and diagonal parking on one side of the street and parallel parking on the opposite side. However, either concept would be great improvement over keeping the existing configuration with nominal improvements. It is acknowledged that street diet may result in adverse impacts to surrounding roadways. However, the downtown appears to have been neglected for an extensive period of time and improvements are much needed. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Respectfully, Debbie Bray, Board Member of the Madeira Downtown Association. The second written comment is from Madeira County EDC, from Mr. Bobby Kahn. Mayor and council members, on behalf of the Madeira County Economic Development Commission, I would urge you to support the proposed resolution that will allow Caltrans to begin preparing the necessary environmental documents regarding road and safety improvements in the downtown area of Madeira. Road improvements, beautification, and pedestrian safety are long overdue in the core downtown area. MCEDC feels strongly that making upgrades, as outlined in previous Caltrans presentations, will create an appealing environment for existing businesses and for that attraction of future businesses. MCEDC urges the council to approve the resolution for Caltrans Downtown Madeira Project, CAPM Project 06-04-180. Respectfully submitted, Bobby Kahn, Executive Director. The third written public comment received is from Leticia Gonzalez, Supervisor of District 4 from Madera County. Dear Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council and City Manager, on behalf of County District 4, I want to thank you for your leadership on the proposed project. As the county representative for downtown Madeira, I have seen the dire need of Yosemite Avenue road maintenance. It has been of utmost importance to provide road and pedestrian safety for our county residents. This proposal is a vital opportunity for economic growth and to embrace the diverse culture of downtown Madeira. Furthermore, the proposal supports the vision of the DOMA project for downtown Madeira. In partnership with the City of Madeira, Madeira Unified School District, and Madeira County Arts Council, this project has the opportunity to authenticate and highlight Madeira's history through its historical storytelling buildings. In addition, it has the accessibility to connect residents with essential services from the county government center to the future Madera County Justice Center. Moreover, I am hopeful for the creative opportunities for our art organizations who have planned and worked to empower and unite community members through enriched shared experiences. The Caltrans proposed project on State Route 145 is essential to our thriving community. The decision the City Council takes this evening is appreciated and a step forward to bridging communities together. I look forward to your direction on this project and encourage you to vote yes on item D2, planned Caltrans project on State Route 145. In community, Leticia Gonzalez. And the fourth written public comment is from Brett Frazier, Madera County Board of Supervisor, District 1. Dear Honorable Mayor, members of City Council and City Manager, please accept this letter as my support of the proposed Yosemite Avenue State Route 145 project. Downtown Madeira has always been an important hub for our community and vital nucleus to connecting residents with goods and services. The proposed improvements will not only provide the necessary infrastructure for a world-class transportation network, inclusive of community spaces, pedestrian, bicycle, and transportation needs, but also enhance the beauty of the downtown area. Additionally, the proposal supports the vision of the DOMA project for the revitalization of downtown Madeira. This vision blends authenticity, connectivity, and economic revival through the reimaging of the downtown area into the future. I appreciate the effort of the City Council to consider this project and am supportive of any of the three options brought forward by Caltrans. Sincerely, Brett Frazier, Madera County Board of Supervisors, District 1. And that would complete the written comment received, Mayor.
And do we have any comments on Zoom?
There's no comments on Zoom.
Thank you, Mark. I will now close public comment on this item. I will now ask for discussion from my colleagues. Councilmember Montes.
Yeah, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. I like the roundabouts too. I've expressed that I like this project. I mean, there's a lot of things that we heard last time and we heard again today. It's going to be safer. It's going to reduce top speeds. There's going to be more public space, more economic opportunity. It's going to revitalize downtown. It's an issue that people have been bringing to our attention for a very long time. And just like one of the other items that we approved, it's going to increase civic pride. Making we have something downtown. We're doing something. We're moving forward, and I think that's what a lot of people want us to continue to do. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's going to make you go down through there faster with and again, this is with the roundabout option. I know that's something that I'm going to ask the council members to stay engaged and the public to also stay engaged during the design phase, and our staff to stay engaged and ask for things that we do need and how can we improve it. So I think, I haven't changed from last time. I think now it's an action item and we couldn't vote on it last time, but my opinion remains the same. I think this is something we should move forward on as a council. Those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I just wanted to thank Caltrans for giving us the information. This is your third meeting with us, and you've been patient and you've asked for our opinions and you've taken them to heart. There's been a lot of times I've sat in meetings and given opinions and they come back and do whatever they want. So I appreciate that the time that you've put in to make those changes and make those accommodations and to give us more of a picture that we can look at and decide if this is right for us. I also want to do a shout out to our staff that's worked with Caltrans on this project and gone back and forth with what we've suggested. And I know that hasn't been easy. I would just like to hope that we make sure that our local contractors and suppliers out there will have a chance to bid on this project so that we can see them locally out there working on this project. If it comes to surveyors or concrete or whatever it's needed, that we kind of stay local. A shout out to Diana Gomez for being our advocate, and Ramon, born and raised Madeiran there, advocating for Madeira. Truly appreciate it. So thank you again, all those players out there doing what's best for our city. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. I too am very pleased to say that I would support the project before us. Obviously, there's always concerns in regards to how do we mitigate traffic, and maybe a question for our engineer. This question has been brought about several times now. And I know Caltrans had mentioned that D Street can certainly take in a lot of the impacted traffic. I'd like to hear that from our engineer, if that would be the solution there. I will say this, that everything presented to us is fine. And Pete, before we move on to you, I was going to ask Caltrans, can we use the concepts that were presented with the Mark Thomas report? A lot of the concepts that they had certainly resonate with your project of road diet. I like the raised median. I certainly like the
roundabouts.
Yes, the roundabouts, because again, it slows down traffic. It certainly narrows those streets down to become more appealing, and the aesthetics around downtown mean a lot to people when they want to come and enjoy a downtown setting. So I certainly would like to see more greenery. I'd like to see more trees, especially in that meeting area alongside. I'm not sure if that's even possible on the sidewalks, but those improvements that were proposed back then, obviously there was other improvements that I don't know if that's part of Caltrans projects. And I'm not sure if in partnership with Caltrans, we can add additional funding to try to bring these enhancements to the downtown area, such as benches and certain lighting and certain things. I'm not sure if that's part of the proposed project. I know that there's some lighting going in there, but there was so much more improvements that we could do. And because this is a great opportunity to do so, I'm not sure if there's any additional funding that we can go after, any grants, working with the city and other partners to see if we can bring something like that together. But I'm certainly in favor of it. Obviously, this is something that our stakeholders have come together to support, and I'm willing to do the same here. Obviously, that's going to bring an enhancement to downtown. So maybe a question to you, Caltrans, can we merge these concepts together? I'm not sure if you guys had an opportunity to see that report, but I know you brought that up in your slide there.
Yeah, so this is John Liu. I'll mention that. So certainly there's, I think the interest is really having more opportunities for landscaping, greenery, with the raised median specifically, right?
Correct.
So yeah, we would be able to modify the lane widths to actually provide a median potentially up to about 8 feet or so. When we get to the design process, we'll see exactly what we could do. And as I mentioned before, we'd want to consult very closely with the fire department to see what kind of lane widths that they feel comfortable maintaining for their fire trucks. But certainly we would want to look at how we could really enhance the area, possibly incorporate things like stamped concrete sidewalks. And the question is, how much is all that going to cost? And will our budget be able to accommodate those types of enhancements? So we have not cost the roundabout concept yet. If that's something that the city council is going to give us direction, we're really going to have to sharpen our pencils to see what we could actually afford as far as these additional enhancements. As I mentioned before, we did get to this $4 million additional to incorporate complete street concepts. And complete streets typically includes those things like transit shelters, bicycle parking, landscaping, those types of things. So we'll see how much we could actually do. But if there is an opportunity for additional funding, I don't think that we'll be able to get more from our side because they've already given us this $4 million gift, so to speak. But we potentially could incorporate funding from other sources that the city or any other entity could bring towards this project.
John, I would certainly appreciate that if you, your organization or anyone within your organization can help us, a lot more money to this project would be great. If you know of any other funding that we have to go through, then that'd be great. I stressed this before. I'm appreciative of you, your team, Diana, and even our staff here to try to make something like this come through. I think it's long due now for a lot of our constituents and stakeholders. They want to see our downtown revitalized, and I'd like to see that we try to capture this opportunity with as much funding as possible to make those improvements and not let something, I hate to use the word half-ass, and not put what's needed out there to make it very attractive. That being said, I'll turn it over to Keith, if I may. I just want to ask Keith, the question that's come about, what do we do to mitigate the traffic? Obviously, coming down from a 4-lane to a 2-lane, how is that going to impact our current situation that we have? And you're mute, Keith, by the way.
I clicked on that once. Anyway, I apologize. I'll go through a few of my thoughts on this, and one of those thoughts is the roundabouts. The roundabouts probably will tend to go ahead and reduce queues on Yosemite Avenue, and they may also tend to increase the capacity or the perceived capacity on the roadway and reduce the number of people who will attempt to go ahead and shift over to 4th Street or even 6th Street. If they do shift over to 4th Street, what we've got going over there right now, we've got a fair amount of capacity, as I mentioned in the last meeting. We are striped with 2 lanes. We have the ability to go to 4. We do have a traffic signal under design at the intersection of Lake 4th and Central. Right now, that's being designed for existing the projections for traffic that would be there without a road diet on Yosemite. That's at, I think Randy indicated that we were past 60% on that design right now. If council approves of the resolution tonight, we can talk to our consultants and look at what we may need to do to go ahead and increase the capacity at that intersection. If we're able to go ahead and convey traffic through that intersection, then we would be looking at Lake Street and Yosemite. Largely, that intersection can be left to receive some of the extra traffic that may divert over to 4th Street. So I think we have options, but we would want to go ahead and study it in more detail and find the optimum ways to go and deal with that. And I did want to go ahead and mention one thing. If council does look to include medians, and landscaping isn't necessarily in this, I would like to see the Caltrans design potentially include the water service connections, not necessarily meters or anything else in the street. But when they get done with their overlay, they're going to be kind of sensitive to cuts in the roadway to bring water into the medians and other landscape areas. Did I answer as much as I think you asked me? If so, please feel free to ask me more questions.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Keith. And I meant to say 4th Street. I'm sorry. I think I said D Street. I was thinking of Union Bank maybe because Mona's here. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate you answering those questions, Keith.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Evans?
Yes. Thank you very much, Caltrans, staff, council. I was the one that made the drawback as far as roundabouts, and I still hold true to that. The beautification of downtown is great. The sidewalks, all of that was great. My biggest concern were the fire trucks, and they still are. So if this is approved with Chief Watson, then I'm okay with that, but I'm still not real fond of the roundabouts. They laughed at me because I spoke about being in Mexico and getting stuck on the roundabout there. But other than that, we need a facelift down there. Not only do we need it for the streets, we need it for the buildings. So we're going to beautify the streets, and the buildings will still look like they do. So if there's going to be extra funds, then maybe we can shift some of that to some of the storefronts over there and just try to beautify the entire thing. But if we're going to work on the streets, then we need to work on the buildings. So Caltrans, if you can come up with extra funds to help beautify the buildings, then you have my vote. Otherwise, I might be still sitting here saying no. But anyway, thank you very much.
Councilwoman Gallegos?
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Probably a question for John really fast, that you have us all excited here, and now you tell us if this is approved, that fall of 2024. Whoa, that's over 2 years from now. John, can we speed it up a little bit? And I know government works slow. So my question is, when is completion of the complete project if we break ground fall of 2024?
Yeah, I'd actually like either Gitachi or Mike to answer that question.
Yeah, this is Mike Day, the project manager. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So our schedule right now is, right now we're in the environmental phase. So we're looking at beginning design this summer, sometime this summer. Then by the time we finish design and we get the project advertised and award it, we're looking at probably September of 24. Construction may begin a couple months after that, but then we may be going into the during the rainy season. So depending on the weather and stuff like that, it could actually, construction could actually begin in the spring, but somewhere right in that area is where we're sitting now.
So Mike, I won't hold you to it, but just like, how long is this project going to take to complete? A year and a half?
No, right now we're sitting at, and we are in the environmental phase. So we'll sharpen our pencils as we get going in the design phase. But right now we're looking at about 120 working days was the last number that I heard. And then, like I said, as we get going into the design phase, and Gitachi could correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll definitely be able to sharpen our pencils on that.
Yeah, during the design phase, this is Getachew, by the way. During the design phase, we're going to work closely with you, with the city engineer, Keith, and the staff. Depending how quickly we move through the design, the schedule should be good for now.
Great, thank you.
Well, I want to chime in on this subject. I want to thank the public, particularly the organizations that participated in the public comment to voice their support. It's very, very important for us to have community involvement, community discussions on such a big project. This is right in the heart of downtown, and people should be able to comment and give their opinions on what we're looking at. Now, having said that, I love the idea of the roundabouts. I like the idea that we can get traffic to go through. It won't cause a slowdown. It'll actually get vehicles through there. And I've seen a lot of roundabouts in different communities, and I've never seen it where it's so big that it makes it difficult for a fire truck to get through. I understand our concerns, and that's something worth looking into. I certainly would not want to do something that is not feasible for our safety officers to come through. I love the bike lanes. I love the fact that we can put some greenery downtown. All this comes with a price tag, though. So I would urge Caltrans to do as much as you can, and then let us know a final design that we can accept, and then we can move forward. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to vote yes on this tonight. Council Member Mejia.
Yes, I would just like to say that I am very appreciative of the collaboration between city staff and Caltrans, and also Caltrans making themselves available to answer all of our questions. I think that this is long overdue, and it's going to be welcomed by the constituents of District 5. I also like the vision of all modes of transportation of being inclusive. In District 5, you know, on Sundays, we see a lot of people walking, and just throughout the week. So I am happy that they're going to have a safe route and bicyclists as well. I'm not a fan of the roundabouts, but having been a driver both in Mexico and here, I'm pretty sure that we're going to be fine, and especially with the service of our police officers. So that's
I don't see any more hands raised. Is there anything else? Arnoldo, do you have anything on this item?
No, I do not, Mayor. Can simply want to thank the Downtown Association for meeting with me last week. It was a good opportunity for us to talk about some different options. And at the same time, also want to thank Caltrans for their partnership and their collaboration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez, did you have something else to say?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I just want to add, John, you did mention that with the possible roundabouts in consideration, that this would potentially dive back into the environmental study. What kind of impact or what kind of timeline would we be looking at if the council decided to move forward on those roundabouts, and how much longer would we have to wait then for the construction?
Yeah, so the idea is not to slow down the project at all. If the council tonight votes to proceed with the lane reduction, the road diet, this will allow us to wrap up the environmental process, and then we could proceed with the design process. During the design process, we will take a look at the roundabouts, and at that time we'll determine what kind of environmental document will we need. Could it just be a categorical exemption? Is it something that we have to go back to the public because of potential controversy? But the roundabouts itself should not delay the project. Our intent is to keep this project on schedule.
Thank you, John.
So I don't see my colleagues. Oh, here we go. Councilmember Evans.
Yes. Once again, John, do you have a designated end date as to the work that's going to be done on Yosemite? You gave us a beginning date, but you said approximately. So approximately, is that going to be starting in September and ending in?
Yeah, so I'll let Mike answer that.
Yeah, we're looking at right now, let's just assume that our 120 working days stayed the same through design. That would be about 6 months of construction time. And depending on the weather, sometimes we have to do, we go to winter break, construction goes to winter break, and then in the springtime, they start their motors, so to speak, and kind of get things going again. So and then from that point, it would be approximately 6 months. So you would be looking at possibly, if you started up in April of 25, and it could start sooner too. It just depends on the weather and everything like that. But and then you'd be looking at about 6 months after that. So you could be done within that construction season and be finished up, by maybe September, October, or something like that. Again, all this is kind of speculation because we haven't really sharpened our pencils on the design, and we're just trying to clear it environmentally. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea as to where it would land.
And I just want to mention that there could be potential strategies to actually accelerate the work. If there's a willingness to even do, extended closure of the highway, that could greatly increase the speed that we could do the project. So during the design stage, we could present back to the city. We'll work with Keith as far as, are these different strategies the city's willing to, are they on board with? So at that time, we could talk about different options.
So we're looking at possibly October 2025, correct?
Right, that would be a possibility if we had a winter break. Now, sometimes construction can work through the winter. Sometimes we don't have a whole lot of rain and stuff like that. But if we just assume a standard winter break and that they came back in April, and then about 6 months after completed the project, we'd be around October-ish. Preferably before the next winter break would start, so we could get it done within one season, which would be ideal. And as John said, we could, as we design and we get everything dialed in, we can work closely with Keith and see what we can do in terms of what's acceptable for the city, in terms of potentially increasing the speed of construction, things like that.
And another thing, I'm sorry.
And also, the accesses to the business during construction is critical on the number of working days will be out there in construction. So just be aware, this is a very dense, heavily traveled downtown area. So access for businesses during construction is very critical. So again, I just want to mention that before we commit to any completion of construction season here.
And Gitachi, the other thing I want to mention is one of the reasons for the 120 working days is this project is very long. I mean, going from Pecan to the railroad, the entire route will not be under construction for 120 working days. The contractor will have different phases or stages that will be working.
Right.
And construction is subject to change also. I don't see any more hand raised. I will now move on to a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the planned Caltrans project on State 145 under agenda item number 2.
I second it.
I'm sorry, Mayor, may I interrupt?
Yes, sir.
We have a resolution tonight that votes in favor of the project. Would you like to amend the resolution to include the roundabouts and/or medians?
Thank you, Keith.
So I'd like to include them so that they can be together with the ER report, and that way we can move forward. And if we decide later that they're not going to suit our needs, then we can certainly remove those 2 items. Is that clear?
So the motion would be to approve item D2 and consider the roundabouts if feasible.
And medium? And medium, yeah. Yes. Motion to approve by Mayor Garcia under item D2, second by Councilwoman Mejia. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes, but before I complete that, Hilda, did we make that motion correctly? Again, item D2, considering the roundabouts and the raised medians in the design study. Is that what you
Right.
want?
My understanding is the motion is to approve the resolution as presented to include the consideration of the roundabouts in the median island.
Thank you. Yes.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans,
Yes, I'll go.
Councilmember Mejia. Yes. Councilmember Villegas,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Caltrans folks. Thank you for coming and joining us. Feel free to come back and give us an update.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We will now move on to item D3, coordination of ongoing federal transportation administration funded activities for the Madeira urbanized area. I believe, Mr. Huff, you have this item?
Yes, I'll be presenting this item, and I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Okay, are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be presenting item D3. It's the coordination of ongoing federal transit administration funded activities for the Madeira urbanized area. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. Oh, okay, all right, so beginning with the summary. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. My apologies. Okay, the view was a little different. My apologies. Okay. All right. So beginning with the summary, the city and county are part of the federal designated Madeira urbanized area designed by the Census Bureau. As of the 2000 census, the MUA population exceeded 50,000, allowing the city and county to access FTA small urbanized area funds. Caltrans is a designated FTA recipient that receive and apportion small urbanized area Section 5307 and 5339, and other federal transit funds available to eligible recipients in the MUA. The said MUA funds are to assist transit agencies with the annual expense accrued at the 50/50 rate for operation assistance and preventative maintenance, and a 80/20 rate for capital improvements. Currently, only the city is a direct FTA recipient, and in being so, is eligible to apply for the city share of MUA funds. In 2020, Madera County Transportation Commission selected Moore and Associates Incorporation to prepare for the fiscal year 2018-2020 TDA triennial performance audit. This audit is designed to be an independent and objective evaluation of the city as a public transit operator. In addition to assuring legislative and governing bodies that resources are being economically and efficiently utilized, the audit fulfills the requirement of Public Utility Code Section 99246A, which requires a regional transit planning agency designate an entity other than itself to conduct a performance audit of public transit operations and activities. As a result of the fiscal year 2018-2020 TDA triennial performance audit, 2 functioning findings were noted and detailed in the following Table 1. So during the TDA triennial performance audit, the 2 findings were, the audit team has identified 2 functional findings as mentioned. While these findings are not compliance findings, the auditor feels they are significant enough to be addressed within the audit. So of those 2, the first one, the city of Madeira does not pass through the share of 5307 urbanized area funding to which the county of Madeira is entitled. And then also the second finding, the city does not report performance data consistently on internal and external reports. Because the MUA population is made of both the city and county residents, the county is entitled to a portion of MUA funds as well. So here, this table pretty much is an illustration of what is the MUA, the Madeira urbanized area. So of the map that is displayed on the left, the entire colored section that's the Madeira urbanized area. You can even see the streets as they're laid out as far as the boundaries. The total population for the area is 81,879. Of that population, the city makes up 79.2%, and then the county makes up 20.8%. And then as far as the total population, you can see those right beside as far as how to divide it per each. So moving along, using this current fiscal year of 2021, the current allocation of MUA funds using this current fiscal year as an example. So currently pre-agreement, as mentioned, the MUA apportionment, city as the sole direct FTA recipient. So the available amount of funding for 5307 funds would be 2,282,467, and which the city share being a sole recipient, it would be 100%. And then also the fund 5339, it's 193,397. And then again, it's mentioned 100%. Here, because the city is a direct FTA recipient pre-agreement, the county share is hashtag the 0, but to also share the specific of that, the county was not a direct FTA recipient, therefore they cannot apply for their share of MUA funds. However, the county would receive funds via the city. So basically, to summarize that piece, the city they was eligible to draw down the 100% of the share, but also in doing so, the city, the MUA funds, the city would draw down 100% of the MUA funds, but they were also with that draw down the county share as far as a reimbursement. And we also have guests that would be available to address that if it's not explained clearly in a sense. So as far as the details of the proposed agreement, this agreement is to determine the share use of 5307, 5339, and other MOU-related FTA Madeira urbanized area funds. The proposed agreement will allow both the city and county to become a direct FTA recipient, allowing each respective jurisdiction to apply separately, each respective jurisdiction to separately apply for their share of MUA funds. The percentage of share funds were determined by the MUA population data, which was the city at 79.2%, and then also the county at 20.8%. This agreement shall continue until terminated by any party according to the termination provisions contained herein, or 5 years, whichever occurs first. So earlier, I showed the example of pre-agreement, the financial impact discussing this. This agreement is to determine the shared use of Madeira urbanized area funds and will impact the annual apportionment the city is eligible to receive for transit operations and capital expenses. With that being said, historically, the city has only drawn down 50% of reimbursable funds allocated per fiscal year. Therefore, this agreement will not impact the city's revenue from 5307 and 5339 funds. So here it is, table 4. It basically speaks to the move apportionment if the city and county were to become direct FTA recipients. The available amount of funds for 5307 here, it shows 2.2 million. The city share of 79.2% would be 1.8 million, while the county share of 20.8% would just be right around 474,000. And then even as we shift over to 5339 funds, the total amount allocated for the Armua era will be 193,397. Again, the city share being 79.2%, we're looking at a little over 150,000. And then the county share being at 20.8%, we're looking at roughly 40,000. So the financial impact continued. We also have funds that are considered one-time apportionment funds. The percentages would be the same. And an example of one-time apportionment funds would be CARES Act funds, American Rescue Act funds. Unlike 5307 or 5339, these are one-time apportionment funds and are not guaranteed or made available annually. So in comparison, 5307 and 5339, those are funds that are made allocated annually in a sense where they're almost guaranteed to come. While recently how you received the CARES funds and American Rescue Plan Act funds, these are plans that might have come with a 6-month notice or surprise funds, as some will say. So in the future, there will be other funds that will come, and as those surprise funds come into the MUA era, it'll still be split between the city and county at that percentage. And so here the recommendation would be to adopt a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the city and county regarding the coordination of ongoing federal transportation administrative funded activities for the Madeira urbanized area. With the benefits of doing so would allow both the city and county to better serve all residents through the enhancement in public transportation. So here I'd like to conclude my presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free.
Thank you, sir, for that report. Alicia, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor, Alicia stepped out, and right now I currently do not see anyone on Zoom. Mark, is there anyone on the phone?
There is no one on Zoom.
Thank you. And Mayor, there doesn't appear to be anyone in the audience here at today in the council chambers.
Thank you. I will now close public comment. I'll open it up for my colleagues for comments and a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve item D3 by Mayor Pro Tem Evans, second by Councilmember Villegas. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
I'll also fill in, Mayor. Councilmember Gallegos.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Montes.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia.
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas.
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes. 7 yes votes, 0 no votes.
Thank you very much for stepping in there, City Manager. We will now move on to item D4, Remote City Council Meetings under Brown Act Requirements, Assembly Bill 361. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. The item before you this evening is a discussion of Assembly Bill 361. Council may recall that this item was discussed at the January 19th City Council meeting. At that meeting, the City Council voted to to conduct the city council meetings under Assembly Bill 361. The Assembly Bill as it stands requires that that the city council vote every 30 days if they would like to continue with AB 361 versus the Brown Act. The one nuance, or there's a couple of nuances, under either scenario, the city council meetings are still posted the same with 72 hours in advance notice. The key difference is under Assembly Bill 361, city council members have the option to be remote, and they are not required to post their location 72 hours in advance. If the city council does not take action on this, we would revert back to the previous form of meetings, which does require city council members to post their location, and it also requires that that location be made available to the public. So again, right now, the city council has the option of readopting the resolution, which would continue AB 361, or else if council does not take action, then the next meeting, it would revert back to the city council conducting its meetings pursuant to the Brown Act. So with that being said, that concludes staff's presentation, and I believe City Attorney Montoy has something to add.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. The City Manager correctly and thoroughly explained the process, and what's before you is this reauthorizing resolution. I did want to point out that to date, with all my clients, I have advised that consistent with AB 361, which is centered on observation and participation by members of the public in video conferencing, in teleconference meetings, that consistent with that principle, that any elected officials who are calling in need to have their camera on and be on video. And so I was asked for clarification on that, and I did review it in quite a bit of detail, and also consulted with colleagues that represent other cities and public agencies. And the Brown Act definition of teleconference is connected by electronic means through either audio or video or both. And that definition applies to both the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing and also to AB 361. Based on that, there is no legal requirement for elected officials to be on camera. So it's not a legal requirement, but having said that, it is a best practice to do that because for the governing board members who are on Zoom to try to be on video as well. It is considered a best practice, and it would be my recommendation. But again, it's not a legal requirement. In the event an elected official for personal reasons decides not to turn on the camera, then each time that person speaks, he or she should announce his or her name, because members of the public may not know who's speaking. So that would be the only caveat. With that, I'm here to answer any other questions you may have.
I don't see anything from my colleagues. My preference would be, of course, as I'm sitting here at home, to continue our meetings from Zoom, but obviously my colleagues feel differently. I would only like to ask if we could allow our boards and commissions to standing committees to do by Zoom. There are some folks out there that would probably benefit from that. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Again, you're going to hear me say this over and over that the mask mandate has been lifted. They're even looking at next Tuesday announcing the masks to be released in the school systems from the children. Our officers are out on the street. Our fire personnel is out on the street. Public Works, wastewater has not too much of interaction, but our employees are asked to step up and do their part. And as leaders in this community and elected officials. I feel that we should be in person to run a meeting with those people that we know. We have shields between us, even though Sarah said the shields don't make a difference if you're sitting for long periods of time. I still feel that by doing the right thing is to be here in where the public can get to us and ask questions and just see us present and representing them as they voted us in these positions. Thank you.
Seeing no further hands raised, I'll look for a motion.
I offer the motion to leave it as it is for AB 361.
Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem, could you repeat that?
Yes, I would like to offer a motion to move to continue with AB 361.
There's two options. One is Zoom and the other one is.
No, there's two. The two options are AB 361 or the traditional Brown Act. So she's moving to adopt the resolution that's before you to continue with the option of teleconferencing.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you for clarifying that. Do we have a second?
I will second that, Mayor Garcia.
Motion to approve item D4 by Mayor Pro Tem Evans and second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos,
Oh, no.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Montes,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia,
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes with 6 yes votes and 1 no vote.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to item D5, Administrative Hearing Officer. I believe, Mr. Rodriguez, you have this item?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Thank you very much. Allow me to share my screen. The item before the council this evening is to adopt a contract with an administrative hearing officer. Historically, the city's benefited from having a volunteer to serve as its hearing officer. This is pretty rare, as our legal counsel will let us know. One of the benefits, obviously, is that it comes at no cost to the city. With that being said, though, the city recently lost its volunteer. And so in response, the city prepared an RFP, which is a request for proposal, and it was closed on December the 17th. We did receive one proposal to the city's request. Obviously, we would want an outside individual that's an impartial party to hear any appeals of any hearings. The sole response was submitted by David Austin, who also happens to be the person that served as the volunteer for, I believe, over 5 years. I think it's probably closer to 6 years. So again, he has previously served as a hearing officer. He's very well versed. He's experienced. He did graduate from law school. And obviously, Mr. Austin has both the experience and the background to serve as the city's hearing officer. A couple of things that they typically, it's a hearing officer usually attempts to resolve disputes between an individual and the city. For example, if someone is appealing a violation or a notice of violation for parking their vehicle in the yard or an overgrown hedge or something along those lines. And then at the same time, as part of the agreement, Mr. Austin would be submitting a written response of the decision. Some traditional types of hearings are the municipal code of violations, nuisance abatements, which are very common, overgrown grass, parking on your yard, those types of things, vehicle impoundment, animal control and parking violations. So currently we do have a backlog. And so at this point, staff is recommending that the council allocate $25,000 for 1 year. It is anticipated that this number would decrease. However, because there's such a backlog, we anticipate initially we're going to have an increased workload. As time progresses, the anticipation is that the workload would decrease. and therefore hopefully the cost decrease to the city. So this position was not budgeted in the current fiscal year because again, we were very fortunate that it was someone that volunteered, and therefore we didn't budget anything. But because we hadn't, this also includes a budget allocation, which would come out of the city's general fund. So with that being said, staff is recommending that the council approve a contract with David Austin to serve as the city's administrative hearing officer and allocate up to $25,000. So that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Alicia, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not, Mayor.
And no one on Zoom.
Thank you very much, Mark. I will now close public comment and go on to my colleagues for discussion and or a motion. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I would just like to do a shout out to Mr. Austin. I think it's very admirable that he's done it all those years. It's not easy dealing with our community when they're upset about a violation or a fine. He's been very patient and thorough. He's been very fair. I've heard of a lot of people that have appealed, and when they walk out of there, they walk out of there smiling, shaking hands, and they're happy because he lays it out very clear to them. So I think our city manager for bringing this to our attention. I didn't realize that there was no accommodations for he went to school so many years to get an attorney, and accommodations haven't been given for his services. So I thank him for all the years of service, and we look forward to him getting those complaints or letters or issues and resolving them for us throughout the years. Thank you.
Yes, Hilda?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a question for the city manager, and I apologize. I should have looked at the agreement on that part because there was usually for when you have sole business people, they sometimes have a concern with the insurance requirements, and which in the city's case is $2 million. And so I just want to confirm with the city manager that he can comply, and if for some reason he cannot, that the city manager be given authority to work an adjustment on the insurance. Again, I should have brought this up before. I thought I had, but both of us get quite busy sometimes. So Arnoldo, is he going to be able to meet the insurance requirement, or do you want council to give you some flexibility there?
Thank you, Hilda. I have not heard of any concerns by Mr. Austin. However, with that being said, Hilda obviously has a tremendous amount of experience in this field, and I think it would be advisable that council provide the city manager or Hilda some flexibility if that does become an issue.
We want these hearings to start immediately, so we don't want any holdups. Sometimes when people have to sign the documents and they start looking at it more carefully.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Hilda, so can you elaborate on flexibility so that we can approve that item?
Right. I think flexibility would be something that the Risk Management Authority would be comfortable with. They generally advise the city, and quite often they say, well, for this kind of a situation, I've had it in other cities where it's one person, they're not going out there to do construction work or anything like that. They're basically sitting in an office rendering decisions. Maybe the insurance does not need to be $2 million, especially since they're only being paid $55 an hour.
Okay, so that's going to be quite a bit for me to put in that motion. So if I wanted to make that motion with that language, what would you say would be the best way to make sure I
consistent with recommendations by the Risk Management Authority?
Okay, great. So I move to approve item D5 with the assistance of the Risk Management Authority, giving that flexibility to our city manager and or Hilda.
Second that.
Is that you, Mr. Montes?
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, there is a correction, minor correction on the staff report. I do see item B5 instead of D5. So for the record, I'm not sure if that has anything to do, but there is a clerical error there.
So we have a motion and a second by Councilmember Rodriguez, second by Councilmember Montes. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia?
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
I just lost my spot. Thank you very much for that report, Mr. Rodriguez. And we need to welcome aboard fully Mr. Austin. So thank you very much. We will now move on to item D6, revisions of appointment process for city boards, committees, and commissions. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Allow me to share my screen. The item before you this evening is an amendment to the city's municipal code, so 2 readings are required. Tonight would serve as the first reading. So as council may recall, back in late fall, after thorough review by our city attorney, we were informed that the city's existing municipal code was out of compliance with state guidelines specific to how members are appointed to the various boards, committees, and commissions that assist the city. On December the 15th, City Council adopted an ordinance specific to the Civil Service Commission. But rather than come back on a 1-1 every time for every commission, which we have a total of 9, this proposed ordinance would amend the appointment for all committees, so then thereby making it consistent throughout the city. Again, the city currently has 9 boards, committees, and commissions, which are on the overhead. So, and this would apply to all 9 of them. So the proposed ordinance, to be consistent with the state guidelines, would authorize the elected mayor to appoint members to all boards, committees, and commissions, subject to approval of the council. So how it's written, a council member would make a recommendation to the mayor, and then the mayor would make a recommendation for council consideration, and then the majority of the council would have to approve that appointment to the board, committee, or commission. As an alternative, council may always elect to modify each board, committee, and commission. However, staff is recommending that we have one process for all 9 of them. So the recommendation this evening would be to waive the full reading and introduce an ordinance amending the municipal code as outlined in the staff report. And if council approves this item this evening, this item will come back in 2 weeks or at the next council meeting for formal adoption, which, if memory serves me, would be March the 2nd. So that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Lisa, do we have any members of the public wishing to chime in on this subject?
I have no one present in the council chambers, Mayor. In one moment while I connect to my Outlook.
And there's no one on Zoom.
I have no.
Thank you very much.
No
Oh,
written.
no, closed public comment. Hilda, did you have something?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to note again that this would be the same process for all boards and commissions and committees. However, it would, as the ordinance says at the beginning, it would not apply to sometimes boards and commissions that are created by state statute, or if you were to create a joint powers authority and you create members for that entity, then it would not apply to that. Those are exceptions for that government code. So we included those exceptions.
So I have a question, Arnoldo, regarding the approval of the full council. And so does this give the council, any member of the council, the right to veto an appointment? Like, let's say that when I used to be in District 5 and I was a council member there and I would appoint someone, can someone actually veto, or is that not the case?
The council mayor, you would, a member of the council would nominate somebody. And if you agree, you would appoint that person, which is the language in the code. And then you would have to submit it to the full council, and the vote would have to be 4-3. So it's a checks and balances.
Okay.
The council has a right to reject your appointments.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion from my colleagues? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
So move to approve D6 as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve item D6 by Councilwoman Gallegos, second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Alicia, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Gallegos?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Montes?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Mejia?
Yes.
Councilmember Villegas?
Yes.
And Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move on to item E, administrative reports. There are none. We will now move on to item F, council member reports, announcements, future agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for the mayor and council members to make brief reports on boards, committees, and other public agencies and at public events, to request updates and to initiate future agenda items, to take action on items initiated under this section of the agenda. Under this section, the council may take action only on the items specifically agendized and which meet other requirements for action. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. I just wanted to inform people that aren't involved in the schools or what's going on. This is Kindness Week, to be kind to people. And that is why I'm in orange today. Today was already be kind to people in your daily ins and outs. So just go out there and give a shout out to people and just be kind and let somebody in front of you in line or open a door, say hello, wave. Kindness Week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Garcia. Just wanted to inform my council that the steering committee for Measure T is still holding its meetings. We had one last week, and I believe we have another one here coming up, I believe tomorrow. We are kind of narrowing it down as far as the stakeholders that are involved, as far as what they want to see. There's still some conversation surrounding obviously the best use of those funds. How do we use those funds? But just to let you know that I'll keep you guys apprised as far as what the outcomes are and what recommendations the steering committee then sets over to the MCTC. Our staff is also involved, that you know that they're participating and they're well aware of everything that's taking place. So anything that comes out of that, they too can also inform our council. Second is we have come again to another meeting that we've met with the city, the county, and other service clubs. The 4th of July event that we have set through the Madeira, Greater Madeira Kiwanis, partnering up with the city and or county and other service clubs such as the Rotary. We're looking forward to make this event a great event. We now have a flyer out. There is a GoFundMe account that has started that'll be shortly going out. There's also a sponsorship package that'll be going out. Hopefully more and more of our city constituency can see that and can partake on this great event. So with that, I just wish everybody safety, health, and hope everybody does well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Montes.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Evans.
Yes, thank you very much, and happy Black History Month, everyone. The beginning of the month, we celebrated our Black History Month celebration, and I just want to give a shout out to the city, the fire department, the police department, Sheriff Poe. I want to thank the food bank for blessing us with water and snacks for everyone there. We were blessed with such a beautiful day, 67 degrees. The flag flew. We had the flag salute as well as the call to the colors. We had the vice president of Madeira Community College, Marie Bird Harris. She was our keynote speaker there, and we honored Sister Alma Riggins. She was 104 years old. And also we honored Second Baptist, Missionary Baptist Church, and they celebrated their 100th anniversary. So that was something quite remarkable. We had in attendance approximately 100 plus people, and everyone seemed to truly enjoy themselves. So I want to say thank you to the city and everyone that did come out and participate. And also the fact that we changed the date from the 13th to the 6th. So individuals could go and participate in the Rams game. And you heard what I said, the Rams game, right? That's who won. So, but anyway, thank you everyone. God bless you and continue to celebrate Black History Month.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Mejia?
Happy Black History Month. I was able to meet the children of Madeira South High School through the Community Connections event, and I really appreciated the invitation there and to hear from all of the students. I also appreciate the collaboration between the City of Madeira Parks and Binational of Central California. Thanks to that partnership, we will be able to offer free income tax preparation to low-income residents pretty much every Saturday until tax day from 10:30 in the morning to 2:30 p.m. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Villegas?
Oh, nothing to report.
I would like to put an agenda item at our next meeting, Arnoldo, if you could, given an update, just an update on the cannabis situation for the city of Madeira. If you could do that, I think there's a lot of interest. And if we could just give an update on that item. Alrighty, so then we will move on to item G, closed session. Hilda, could you take us into closed session, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Closed session, one item, public employee performance evaluation under Government Code Section 54957B1, titled City Manager.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And good night to the folks who are going to be leaving us tonight. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here.
And Mayor and Council, you can call me if you have any questions. I will sign out.
Okay. Thank you. Back from our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. Item
Did
G-
you want to announce that, Arnoldo?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Item G1, closed session, public employee performance evaluation. Title, City Manager. All council members were present. No reportable action.
Thank you very much. And I now call for adjournment of this meeting. It is 9:03. Our next meeting date is Wednesday, March the 2nd, 2022. Thank you very much, and you all have a good evening.
Good night.